Keir Starmer must have said one quiet prayer this morning. Please, Lord, make sure that Donald Trump does not win the US election. It's hard to see what the pair would possibly have in common, of course, but more importantly, the Trump campaign has now filed an official complaint about interference by British radical leftists, otherwise known as officials from Sir Keir's Labour Party. Ouch! Welcome to Talking Politics.
Since taking office, Starmer has not made a single sound decision. Recently, his foolishness has crossed the ocean, provoking Donald Trump and forcing the former President of the United States to declare war on the Labour Party. This reckless act not only tarnishes the reputation of the British people, but could also end Starmer's career as Prime Minister. Let's analyse this shocking turn of events, and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the latest political news.
My old mate Nigel Farage has accused Labour of direct interference in the US election after it emerged almost 100 current and former party staff will campaign for Kamala Harris.
The Labour government has cleverly activated the Republican presidential candidate in the United States, provoking the ire of this leader directly towards the United Kingdom. Donald Trump has made a series of serious allegations against the Labour Party, criticising its involvement in illegal activities, including the unlawful provision of phones and interference in the American electoral process. Trump's campaign has claimed that the far-left Labour Party has inspired the dangerous liberal policies and rhetoric of Kamala Harris, raising concerns for the politics of both nations. In recent weeks, the Labour Party has actively recruited and dispatched its members to campaign for Kamala Harris in key battleground states, aiming to directly influence the election outcome. Clearly, the Labour Party is forging a close relationship with the Democratic Party, as evidenced by Starmer's announcement to send 100 staff members to the US to support the Democratic campaign. Sophia Patel, head of the Labour Party's executive department, has even boasted about this on LinkedIn, showcasing the party's bewildering self-satisfaction. This action cannot be deemed subtle. Nearly 100 current and former staff members have been sent to the US to join the campaign for Kamala Harris. The Red Jackets are flooding into America, serving as a clear symbol of the Labour Party's interference in this country's election. These 100 individuals will be active in states like North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. This clearly indicates that these states are in a state of flux, with Pennsylvania being a prime example. Whoever wins here will hold the fate of the entire election, and they will have to debate with Donald Trump on various issues, including housing policies. Naturally, the Republican Party is outraged by these moves, accusing Starmer of trying to meddle in the US election, an act that could lead to serious diplomatic conflicts. However, it is not only the Republican Party that feels angered by this situation. People across the UK are expressing dissatisfaction and outrage at what they view as Starmer's most significant blunder, dragging the United Kingdom into an unwanted, chaotic situation. Starmer, who has been entrusted with the office of Prime Minister, seems never to have done anything right. Clearly, his recent decision to approve the dispatch of 100 Labour volunteers to crucial battleground states in the US to support Kamala, the Democratic candidate, demonstrates a serious lack of responsibility and deep concern. Starmer should have actively refrained from endorsing this dangerous action against the interests of the UK, and Donald Trump is now exploding with fury. To express this outrage, Trump sent a legal letter to the Federal Election Commission, clearly asserting that this action constitutes interference by a foreign nation. Journalists are not the only ones raising concerns about this issue, as MPs have criticised Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner during a debate in the House of Commons. A notable question raised was whether the Deputy Prime Minister would welcome the brave Labour staff members who crossed the Atlantic to campaign against Donald Trump. The House erupted in laughter as Angela Rayner resorted to her usual antics, dodging questions and attempting to shift the blame onto others. She responded to inquiries on the matter by stating that, in their personal time, individuals often engage in campaigning activities, and that is precisely what we are witnessing. This does not occur within just one party, but across all political parties, where individuals have the right to engage in campaigning and do what they wish during their personal time with their own money. It is clear that she was alluding to figures like Nigel Farage. a prominent political personality known for his busy schedule and extensive connections, particularly across the Atlantic. However, there is one thing that Angela Rayner seems to have overlooked. Nigel Farage does not represent the UK, while the Labour Party surely has a responsibility to represent the nation, or at least is expected to do so. The reality is that it is the antics of the Labour Party, not Farage's fervent support, that could genuinely damage the close relationship we maintain with our transatlantic allies. It might be necessary to remind Rayner and her team that being friendly with one party while meddling in American politics is sure to backfire, leading to a decline in the country's reputation. Moreover, Farage has been boasting that President Biden is quite fond of this arrangement. Previously, the spokesperson stated that the UK should not be influenced by elections taking place abroad. However, it is indeed worth questioning his level of confidence should the 47th President of the United States be Donald Trump. Would Trump accept this arrangement when our relationship with the US is so crucial? This highlights Nigel Farage's unwavering support for the Republican presidential candidate. On the other hand, Starmer and his MPs have consistently shown blatant dissatisfaction with the Republican candidate. The current Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has even gone so far as to call the Republican leader a madman with fascist tendencies, referring to Donald Trump, Joe Biden's opponent in the presidential race. David Lammy has described Trump as a narcissist who aligns with neo-Nazi ideology without providing evidence. Furthermore, he did not hesitate to label Trump as a tyrant in a wig. This raises a serious question. How can Starmer establish a relationship with Trump if this US presidential candidate wins after having been so disparagingly described? Will this really create a solid foundation for diplomatic relations between the two? Clearly, Starmer is struggling to find anyone who has not said something derogatory about Donald Trump. Perhaps Starmer and his cabinet no longer have much opportunity to reconcile with the Republican Party, especially if this party wins the upcoming election. The current situation suggests they are determined to cross every boundary to be included in Trump's long list of critics. Donald Trump is evidently angry about this. He is a pragmatic individual and has recently had a conversation with Starmer. If he becomes president, there's a good chance he will maintain a friendly relationship with Starmer, which seems increasingly likely. But he will certainly not forget what has transpired. Interestingly, Starmer appears to have begun recognizing the mistakes in his behavior as the Republican Party gains more support. Recently, he even traveled to New York to meet with the Republican leader. And who was by his side? It was David Lammy, who had previously publicly criticized the Republican leader as a depraved individual. That meeting must have turned into an unimaginable farce, right? The timing was utterly inappropriate for such an action. Not only did it provide a poor impression, but it also created a terrible situation, especially with just 2 weeks left before the election. After last summer, both Keir Starmer and David Lammy seemed to be trying to mend relations with Trump, despite having made very negative remarks about him in the past. Clearly, they had called Trump a villain, employing personal attacks and sending unflattering tweets. Now, the government is interfering in the elections of a close ally. No one can predict what the consequences of this action will be. Everything has now come to light in the public sphere on social media. It remains to be seen whether this will attract public attention. If a sitting government sends its members and activists to campaign, this will lead to their expulsion from the party. It's possible they are being paid for their annual leave. Thus, they might be getting paid to campaign for Kamala Harris. Will these volunteers expect to pay for their own flights? It's utterly disgusting. Starmer may not realise this, but he is truly playing with fire by deciding to meddle in American politics. This action has brought the United Kingdom closer to the risk of losing a long-standing friendship with the United States. Looking at the facts, this is something the UK cannot accept in the current chaotic context. If the Labour Party has any sense left, they will need to quickly mend relations with the Republican Party and withdraw their team from the States. If not, they are only sowing the seeds for a crisis with the United States.